You're listening to Online Pet Health Podcasts with Dr. Megan Kelly. Continuing education for veterinarian rehabilitation therapists. Learn more at onlinepethealth.com.
Hey Vet Rehabbers, today I chat with veterinarian and CCRT Kristal Turner. She's from Veterinary Sports Medicine and Rehabilitation in Tennessee in the United States. It's one of my Behind the Vet Rehab Practice podcasts. These are my favorite podcasts. I love chatting to vet rehabbers about how they practice vet rehab. Kristal has a special interest in musculoskeletal ultrasound and regenerative medicine. She chats how she incorporates this into the clinic and also about how they are setting up a VRSM clinic. For those of you that are not familiar with VRSM, it stands for Veterinary Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. It was founded by Sherman and Deb Knapp, and they have a certificate program called the VRSM Academy. Kristal shares more about this in the interview. For those of you that are interested about VRSM and you want to listen to the Behind the Vet Rehab Practice podcast with the Knapps, you can go check out episode 55. If you're interested in regenerative medicine specifically and you're an online pet health member, you might have caught the live webinar last night called Regenerative Medicine Updates with Matt Brunke. Matt got us all up to speed with the latest in regenerative medicine. If you didn't catch it, members, you know where to find the recording. It's in the members portal. We have over 100 webinar recordings there now on our platform, and on top of other loads and loads of learning and content. Before I hand over to Kristal, just first a word from our sponsors. PulseVet are the global leaders in veterinary shockwave technology. They manufacture the ProPulse and Versatron family of products. Now, for those of you that don't know, shockwave therapy is a non-invasive high-energy sound wave therapy, and it can be used on both large and small animals to treat multiple soft tissue and musculoskeletal conditions. With over 20 years of clinical research, PulseVet is used by top veterinarians and veterinary rehab therapists to improve the quality and speed of healing, relieve pain, stimulate bone and tissue growth, and improve mobility for their patients. For more information, you can go to pulsevet.com, and you can also meet the PulseVet team at their virtual exhibit stand at the Vet Rehab Summit, which is our online veterinary rehabilitation conference, and this is on the 14th of November. Over to Kristal. Hey Kristal, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Kristal, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got into the field of veterinary rehabilitation?
I work in Tennessee, just south of Nashville, and I'm at a rehab practice called Veterinary Rehabilitation and Sports Medicine, and I've been here since 2013. So I immediately after finishing my small animal rotating internship at Auburn, got the job here and pretty much dove straight into rehab and acupuncture training.
So, and you also have a special interest in regenerative medicine. So for the listeners, I actually found out about Kristal through their amazing social media, because I was seeing all these cool social media posts, and Kristal was doing regenerative medicine in a whole lot of cases. And I actually reached out to her and said, "Oh, this is so great. Can you come on my podcast?" So tell us a little bit about how you got into that interest and what the reason is that you decided, oh, that's what I'm going to focus on.
I actually met Sherman and Deb Knapp at the Rehab Summit, the International Summit of 2 years ago. I attended their workshop on regenerative medicine and musculoskeletal ultrasound, and spent a couple of days with them and learned so much, and that definitely piqued my interest in those fields. So immediately after, reached out to them, emailed them asking if I could sign up for Deb's ultrasound class, go up there to shadow them, and just learn more about BMAC, PRP. And so kind of started that immediately after the World Summit.
I really love that ultrasound because, if I think about it at vet school, we did ultrasound at vet school, but it was more like abdominal ultrasound, but we didn't really do musculoskeletal. For horses, I remember doing a little bit of tendon ultrasound at vet school. And I think it's so underutilized in the small animal field. If you think about it as a vet, dog comes in and it's got a forelimb lameness, and you palpate, you can't find anything. You do a lameness examination, you can see it's lame. You x-ray it, you can't find anything. You just soft tissue injury, send it on anti-inflammatories. And, so it's so difficult for us to be able to isolate exactly where the soft tissue injury is. And that's why this musculoskeletal ultrasound is just so awesome. I think that if I was still in practice, because I don't practice now, I'm on a 5-year sabbatical, which seems like it's going to go on forever. I think one day I definitely will go back to practice. I think that's something that I'd really, really love to do. It's for me, it would be it's one of those things I really hate not having an answer to something, and those soft tissue cases are just so like that. This kind of, I think it could be this, but not really knowing. And I know that we can do other diagnostics. So we can go do MRIs, but first of all, there's money, the cost of those. And sometimes we still don't get the answers, right? To those. So it must be so great for you to be able to, on those cases now, actually find a diagnosis.
Yeah, it is. I just got sick of, taking x-rays and saying 90% are going to be normal, especially like with the shoulder. And yep, they're normal, but the dog is still painful. And just being able to put the probe on and say, it's a biceps or a supraspinatus tendinopathy, and, getting an official diagnosis, and then also the degree of the strain, we can grade it now. So we know if rehab alone, will offer a good prognosis long-term, or if we just right off the bat need to add in more things like regenerative medicine. So it's really nice for those shoulders. I use it a ton in our iliopsoas diagnoses. So before I would just, go off of my physical exam. They're painful on palpation. I can rule out like hips and LS and, say it's probably ilio. But especially for agility owners, when you say, you need at least 6 weeks of activity restriction, if you're wrong and 6 weeks go by and then they're still, painful, that's not good. And it's nice to have, that as an official diagnosis right off the bat. So we use it mostly for those two things. But I've also started to do more and more stifle ultrasounds. I actually have a tarsus ultrasound, so the whole like Achilles complex and paw, this week with Dr. Knapp. Deb's gonna telemedicine in with me, kind of help me because the paw gets pretty tricky. So that'll be this week. Yeah, I love it.
That's so great that they offer that. Because like that's one of the things where that's kind of case that you don't see often. And so you actually need that experience, right? You need to have seen it often. You're thinking like, is this normal? Is this not normal? So it's so awesome that they have that to offer to support you, so that you can, whenever you have a really tricky case, you can just say, hey guys, I need your help with this one. And that's how you learn, right? Because you're actually doing those cases. Otherwise, normally you would say like, that one's just not for me. You need to go here, and send them to someone else. So it's
this one in particular had already been to our local boarded surgeon, who then referred to our local neurologist, and had already been through those two specialists, and is still sometimes non-weight bearing lame. So there's an obvious problem. It's just really hard to find. So it's tricky in those cases. It's definitely a little more stressful, but it's so nice to have the Knapps as a backup. And that really started with the whole VOSMA.
Yes. So you're basically in the process now of your clinic being one of the VRSM registered clinics, right?
Yes. Yeah. We started that in January of this year.
Okay. Yeah. And when is that like done now, or do you have to go through a process?
Usually it's about 6 months long for the training. You have to be able to do that regenerative medicine, so comfortable with joint injections, musculoskeletal ultrasound guided injections into the tendon or the soft tissue lesion. Needle scoping or arthroscopy is another big one. And my needle scope is actually arriving today, so I'm so excited to try it. But those are the big things. And then with that, actually started a residency. So I started in January. I'm a resident of the Sports Medicine Rehab College. So we have our like weekly meetings up with VOSM. I've been Zooming in a lot since COVID, but I learn a ton, through those. So it's been great.
It's so awesome. Yeah, I mean, if I think back to that ultrasound, it just completely eliminates the guesswork. And having that actually then allows you to be able to treat that patient so much better, because you actually just know exactly where you are. And then you have an idea of, what is actually appropriate treatment instead of just guessing, and I think especially with those agility or those sports medicine cases, because those clients are always wanting to get them back sooner. And so when you've got something definitive, you can say, well, this is actually the grade, this is how we need to treat this. Whereas when you don't know that, you tend to want to like please them and say, okay, like it should be okay now, you don't really know.
Right.
So yeah.
And you can see it dynamically, especially for like a biceps tendinopathy. You can engage the biceps like while ultrasounding and see what happens versus an MRI, they're just completely still. So I found huge value in it. I've been doing ultrasound. I took Deb's course right after the World Summit, so it's been about 2 years, but really these past 6 months it's taken off.
Awesome. So I'm guessing that you needed quite a lot of new equipment when you started doing all of this. So how did you convince your practice to buy all the regenerative medicine equipment?
I think once we decided, to do the VOSMA, it was like, all right, we just got to throw in everything, try our hardest, all in. So that with the residency, with us being in a really big pocket for agility, like performance and working dogs, kind of Middle Tennessee is really big for that. We just started, and when I started actually backing up in 2013, we already had a treadmill and we had a class 4 laser and a therapeutic ultrasound. So we've always had those things and used them all day, every day. But more recently, we purchased the companion regenerative medicine system, the CRT. We purchased the needle scope that Deb and Sherman have been working on, and it's really neat. It hooks up to a tablet, kind of like an iPad, and you can hook an ultrasound probe into that as well. So you can get both, arthroscopy and ultrasound. So that will be very helpful. We just purchased a shockwave last week, actually, the Physio Wave. So that is exciting. Got a second laser just because we're getting so busy. We've got one in our rehab building. And then I still do a lot of acupuncture, and we use the cutting edge class 4 laser. So I use that very often in my acupuncture patients during their sessions. So we've got a second one of those. Gait for dog, we're getting a gait mat. With my residency, I have to do research. So having objective measures is going to be important. So we're in the process of getting one. And then we just keep going down the line. It's like, okay, well, now we need a second treadmill, but then we'd really love a pool. Then we need a bigger building. And then we just start this crazy. So we're like, okay, slow down. One thing at a time. But it has kind of taken off and it started to get really, really busy, which is exciting.
I mean, listen, you need all the toys. That's the best part, is having all the toys. And if they're paying for themselves, then it's worth it. There's a return on the investment there. And it sounds like there is. So are you getting quite a lot of referrals from other practices, or is it mainly through, because there's a general GP practice and then the rehab practice is attached. Is that right?
Yes. So the general practice is called Animalia Health and Wellness, and rehab was initially just Animalia had rehab as an offering. And when I started, that's how it was. And we had a lot of self referrals, and then internal referrals. There's 7 vets working at Animalia now. So we'd get quite a few of those, but that was really it. And we have 2 specialty hospitals in the area. But I think the big thing then was because it was all under Animalia, it was hard for them to feel comfortable referring, like, for example, a post-op TPLO to us. And then the people pull up, we've got 7 beautiful acres. It looks like a park. It's gorgeous grounds, and people fall in love with the place and then want to come here for primary care. And so we, over the past year, have made a lot of changes by rebranding, separating rehab, changing our name to veterinary rehabilitation and sports medicine, having a different phone number, having a different receptionist. And now I only see rehab patients and acupuncture patients. So I don't do any more surgery like spays and neuters and vaccines. I don't do any of that anymore. So those were some big changes. At times. I've never loved surgery. I like neuters. Never loved spaying. I love arthroscopy, which is funny because it's somewhat of surgery. You know, they're under anesthesia. And I love that, but just never was a fan of like getting into the abdomen.
Nice,
wasn't my cup of tea.
Labrador, loads of abdominal fat.
That's actually what did it. I came back from maternity leave. It was my first day back, surgery, and it was an in heat, older Pyrenees. And I dropped the pedicle, and I was like, all done. That was it. And it was the best decision ever because it stressed me out so bad. And now I'm doing the things that I love, every day. And I'm happy I made that decision. But yeah, making those changes so that other referring vets were comfortable referring was huge, because now we get a ton of referrals from our local surgeons, from our local neurologist, and from general practices. So Kadara, who did our social media, she started to do that, and she puts out some awesome content. She is our outreach coordinator. So she's going to, once, COVID hopefully dies down and goes away, she'll go to other practices and give them our information. We send them thank you baskets for their referrals. Ideally, we'd go out and do lunch and learns to other practices. And then we did add in a policy for our rehab patients. When they come here, they sign saying they will not pursue care at Animalia. So we uphold that relationship with their primary vet. We send them thank you letters, for the referral, and also update them with my progress exam notes, so they kind of stay in the loop with everything we're doing.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is like basically the rebrand was really because of this issue with the sort of one name and being associated with the actual primary practice, the primary GP practice. And so rebranding has really helped you to distinguish yourself as separate from them. And your key focus has been now to try and get referrals and try to reassure those vets that, this is separate. There's a separate telephone number, separate, and they will now sign something to say that they will not go and do primary care there. Exactly. Yeah, because that is a big worry, isn't it? A lot of the vets, and it's very rare that you actually get a vet rehab practice that is doing surgeries and anesthetics and regenerative medicine that is not attached to a primary practice, because we need oxygen, and we need we need things like adrenaline if something goes wrong, and we need all those things. And so you could have a practice that's just that, but generally it works well when you're using the same anesthetic machine, or you're close by, you're buying the same stock. And so it's one of those things where, I remember my practice, I was quite limited as to what I could do there. So I actually rented space next to another veterinary practice. So if ever I needed to do anything, I would go and use their rooms. And it was always a problem. People were very worried about coming to my practice and then the clients actually just going to the next door vet. So even though it wasn't my practice, it's more convenient just to pop in there and go get some dog food or whatever.
Exactly.
So it's really important that we do reassure them. And one of the things that I used to do is I never used to, or if I had a client that came to me and I needed to prescribe some anti-inflammatories or painkillers or prescribe anything for the pets, I would always give them like 3 to 5 days worth. And because I'd obviously see them now, like I realized they don't have anything now, they need something. And then I would tell them to go back to their vet. And then I would have a conversation with the vet to say, I've seen your patient, they referred the patient, so I'm seeing it on a regular basis, but now they've run out. And then I would always say to them, they'll need a prescription refill. So I've given them 5 days worth just to get them over the weekend, but they need to come back to you. So I used to do that. And that also really helped with the relationship with the vet practice, because those are the things that they worry about. They worry like
that's what they make money on.
Yeah, exactly. So that's great. So the rebranding must have been a big thing. Like when you did it, was it?
It was.
I mean, did you need a new website and everything?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We needed a website, the name, the logo, the colors, the feel, the vibe of it all. And that took the longest, just trying to come up with a good idea. And, figure out what we wanted to look like and be and represent. Thankfully, my husband is a graphic designer. And he went to art school, so he's very creative, and he helped. Like, he did the website, he did the logo. We actually kind of did a spinoff of VOSM, and we're VRSM. And so the idea came from there as far as the name goes. But for all of the visual things, it was mainly my husband, John, who did a lot of it. And then videos too. That was a big thing. We have somebody, Tyler, that we work with here, that shot all of the videos on our website, did like a little interview with me and Dana, our manager. And so that content has been really neat to see it animate, and kind of come to life on the website. So we just launched maybe a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, because I follow you guys on social media, and I saw this post on Instagram, and like, we have an announcement, and we will be posting it like in 4 hours time or something like that. And I remember, because of our time difference, I was like, oh no, I need to know now. You can't do that to me. Like, what is the announcement? Like, it's a big announcement. I remember it was like a big thing. And I actually made a note in my diary to like go onto your Instagram page the next morning, because I was so worried that I might miss it, because of the time difference, and then it's like 12 hours later and then I don't actually see it. So I was very excited to see all the changes. So I followed you guys as it all happened. So what is the other types of marketing that you're doing now besides the things that you've mentioned? So you obviously are active on social media. Do you find that beneficial? Do you find that you get clients from it?
I do. I think that is probably, especially now, we keep talking about COVID, but it's changed a lot for everybody. And especially now, having, being able to reach people from their house, from their couch while they're scrolling, I think is probably the most important, even more important than having a website these days. That's important too, but keeping up with social media and having it be relevant, so that people can make a connection with whatever's being said. And I found that talking about cases and following a case through and putting it in general terms so that the general public can understand, but including, a video of the PRP and maybe the elbow radiograph and the dog walking before and then the dog walking a couple weeks after, to show the difference in the comfort level. Those tend to go the farthest, and we get the most response from our social media following. Kadar is doing a great job.
So do you get engagements on the actual posts? So people ask questions about it, and then do you reach out to them? So like, what is do you have a plan as to how you approach that?
We do. So if they ask specific questions, we'll try and answer them just right back on the feed so that people can follow that. If they have more specific questions about like their pet and if it would benefit them, we ask them to reach out to us, and include our phone number or email so that we can talk to them specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been working well.
And when people come to your practice, do you have a place where they have to say where they heard about you? So is there like a little tick box, I got referred or heard from a friend or social media?
Yeah, we have a new patient client questionnaire. And we try when they call, since we have our own CSR now, it's really nice for her to be able to pick up the phone and answer, because Dana's doing, her manual therapy and Dawn's running the underwater treadmill. There's really no room for them to get up and answer. So Kadar has been a huge help with that. And so she'll kind of talk them through what to expect at the consult. She'll send them a new patient questionnaire via email right after. And that has all of the big things in there, like who referred you. We also have a referral section on our website for other veterinarians, GP or specialty, to fill out. And we just use like a Jot Forms system that we embedded into our website. And then we'll attach it to their record when they're here. We use Cornerstone for our medical records.
And so are you guys actually like measuring? So do you know like what percentage of clients come from social media, referred from a friend, referred from a vet?
I don't think we've started yet, but we should, because
you should.
I mean, it's definitely been a big difference from this year to last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll have to.
It's really good to know that, because like, and especially if you have clients of yours that are referring friends, like you really want to go thank them, because those are your best clients, the ones that do the marketing for you. So you need to find a way to be able to know when someone's referred. So like if it's a friend, who was it, and send them a little thank you card, or pick up the phone and call them, or send them some flowers or whatever. You really got to recognize those people, because
definitely
when you do
appreciate it, they just
keep doing it. And also, for me, I always want to know, where people come from, because then it means, like, for example, if it was on social media, was it Instagram, was it Facebook, was it Twitter, wherever you are, then it really, it lets you know, if you look at it and you've got all those stats, it lets you know like what's actually working. So, and I think that it works for different people and in different places, wherever you are. So like you're attracting people from one geographical area, and maybe the people in your area are very much on Instagram, and maybe for somebody else it's Facebook, so you can't really say like this is what's working now in vet rehab for marketing. Like you got to look in your area. So, but you guys are really.
What is this TikTok thing? Do you understand TikTok?
I've listened to quite a few like podcasts about TikTok, and it's very young now. So it's this younger generation, but remember, this younger generation is the next pet owner, so they, in a few years time, they're going to own pets. But I just, it to me, what I know about it, it's like a video kind of platform that was actually created for dance moves and music. And then it's now sort of it's all about doing short, funny clips. So people still do quite a lot of dance clips, but I've actually seen some like funny things that dogs do and people do with dogs and horses and things like that. So it's like an entertaining type of platform. So I still haven't exactly worked out how you're supposed to use it for business. And I think the challenging thing right now is that, with all these platforms, so for example, Instagram, if you were early on Instagram, you got loads of followers because it was so much easy, because they didn't have to put in algorithms to, because in the beginning, there's a certain number of people on. So you have this content and you're actually able to see it. And then as more people come onto the platform, then there's so many more people, you actually can't see it. So then they have to put algorithms to change the way that you see and to try and get you to show you the right content, because there's just so much content out there. And so as the platform becomes more advanced, there's more algorithms, which makes it harder, and there are more people. So it's so much more difficult to get known. And so what a lot of the sort of digital marketing specialists are saying now, you need to be on these platforms now, getting that reach, building your platform, your TikTok, so that when those people then become pet owners, then you've got this following already, so then once you've got the following, then it's easier to get the traction. So, but it's just so difficult right now to decide, like, here we are, like, how do you make a video about regenerative medicine?
Right.
I suppose you could like make it so you're like injecting and speed it up or something.
Yeah.
But it's not really entertaining.
So
there will be a shift. There will be a shift where businesses will start to use it. And I think that if you are very creative, maybe you can do them now.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, the only thing is maybe doing some fun, like, therapeutic exercises, with the dog and set it to music, something like that.
Yeah, you could make it really, really fun. I think the challenge for me is that I'm all about, like, spending time on things that have a return on investment right away. Like, we have such little time. So is it worth spending time on these kind of things? What I've actually seen a lot of vet rehab practices do is create TikToks and then use those videos on Instagram. So they're on both. They're using it, and it's just as entertaining on Instagram as it is on TikTok. So they're actually creating on both platforms. So they're creating one piece of, and they're using it on both,
and
just
sharing
to make
it.
sure that to make sure that they're there. And even on the Instagram, it says TikTok. I can see the words TikTok on it. I don't know if you've seen that before.
Right.
Yeah. So
I feel old. TikTok, I don't get it. It's funny though, the ones I see. But
they are entertaining. But I think with the marketing side of things, like, I always teach the vet rehabbers. I've got a Facebook group called Business Vet Rehabbers. So for those listeners that are out there that are looking for some advice, we basically share advice. I get different practitioners that have different skills to come on and do Facebook Lives and do some training, and we help each other out. So someone's got a problem, they post something there, and everyone chips in and helps out. But from what I've learned about social media is, like, choose one major platform. So choose like, is it Facebook or Instagram? I think those are probably the two key ones, and then have a secondary supporting platform. So and that one sort of just takes over. So you spend 90% of your time on your primary platform and 10% of time on your secondary platform. So if you're looking at the time that you're investing, so, and you can then also from your secondary platform send people to your primary platform. So if you have like Facebook, let's say you're doing a Facebook Live, you post something on Instagram and you say, like, click in the bio, the link to the Facebook Live, and you can put that link in a link tree, which is that little website. I don't know if you know a link tree. It's like a one-page website where you can basically put a whole lot of links in. And so people use that on Instagram to send people to multiple different things. So if you've got like book an appointment or go to our Facebook page, or so you can put a whole lot of links in it. It's a free website. For those of you that are listening, I'll put the link to this in the description notes so that you guys can go check it out. Because in Instagram, you've just got like one bio, you've got one area that you can have a website. And most people will just direct them straight to your practice website, which you can do. But if you've got a few key places that you want to send people, then you don't want to just send them there and then get lost. Then you go to Linktree and you can say, go to our website or join us on Facebook for this Facebook Live, which you can update those links all the time. Yeah. Or maybe you've got a download, say, maybe you've got a download for dogs with elbow dysplasia. Those are cases that you see a lot for your regenerative medicine. You can say, download our guide to treating dogs with elbow dysplasia. And that's one of your like ways in which you get new leads. You can have that link there, and then they click on it, they download it, and in downloading it, they give you their name and their email address and their telephone number. And you can make contact with them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah. So we're sidetracking from you and your practice.
No, it's fine. I love that stuff. I need to learn more.
So tell me about life as being a vet and having kids, because that's a challenge. And you've got 2 young kids, don't you?
I do. I have a 3-year-old boy and a 6-year-old boy. So I was my first year actually practicing in GP was when I had my first son. And then Natchez came 2.5 years later. And so they're at the age right now where they're playing with each other, which is great, but then they also fight with each other, even if it's play fighting, with them being boys, roughhousing, wrestling, all of that. But they have a lot of energy and they're so much fun. But it is a lot of work. So my husband works from home. So his office is in the house and he does all of his, graphic design, website, branding stuff from there. And up until a month ago, we had no help. It was me and him, and his mom actually lives pretty close to us. So she would help out at least a day a week or more. But most of it fell on him. So that was really hard because you can't work, you can try, but it never worked out. So we have a nanny now 3 days a week, and it's life-changing. We're like, why have we waited this long? And it's, financially, you want to make sure that you can afford it. And so we're trying it out, and it's going great. And he can work and I can work, and then we can be a family when we're not working. Whereas before we were kind of splitting, switching shifts. When I come home, he goes to work, and he's a night owl, and he'll stay up till 2 a.m. normally. Just that's when he's most creative and can get most work done. But we would never see each other, and it just wasn't ideal. So we found, by having this help with our family as well, it makes all the difference, and we can do fun things again together. I live like 5 minutes from work, so I can pop in at lunch if I want to, which is great to reset the day. We kind of have 2 hours in the middle of the day that's quiet time where we catch up on callbacks and lab work and client communications and our notes. But I can shoot home if I have time. And then just having such a short commute, I'm working 8 to 6, 4 days a week, and every other Saturday, 8 to 2. And so I leave at like 7:50 and I'm here early. So it's wonderful. That was really important to me, to find somewhere really close, so that I could be a mom too and see them and not spend an hour, in traffic.
Because also 6 is late, right? So if you had to get back at 6 and then your husband had to go start doing work now, and he's probably stressed because he realized he's got deadlines, the type of work that he has, and he hasn't been able to do them. It sounds like a good plan. And so you work, Saturdays is tough, working on a Saturday, right?
Yeah, it is. And it goes by quick because it's a shorter day. But those are my most booked days. Like those fill up a month in advance, or more really, because people are working, so they want to be involved. And this is all like pre-COVID, when people weren't all working from home. So they are much more flexible now. But back then, Saturdays were really, really busy, and people want to be a part of their dog or cat's care. Like they want to be included, and they want to be there for the acupuncture, be there while they're in the underwater treadmill to experience it with them. So Saturdays are big. Yeah.
And so how does it work? Which day do you have off? So is it Monday to
Fridays.
Thursday? Okay. Yeah, that's nice. So then every second weekend you get a long weekend. Yep. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So what are your biggest challenges at practice?
The biggest challenges, more from like a business marketing standpoint, it was making these other veterinarians comfortable to refer, knowing that we are definitely going to send them back. That was the biggest one for me. From a medical standpoint, it was just learning all of these new modalities and tools. Musculoskeletal ultrasound was it was hard to learn. I had never ultrasounded really anything before. We had a little ultrasound for cystos, in the general practice, but that's all I used it for. So learning the basics of just ultrasound and then following all of these tendons and ligaments out was tough for me. But the more I practiced, I'd come in on the weekends with my big Irish Wolfhound, and he just lays on his side and falls asleep. And he looked like a patchwork quilt. He is like shaved in every joint, but I just practiced a lot, and it comes easier for sure now. And so just the stress of, wanting to be really good and learning these new things and knowing that, you're not going to be perfect right off the bat, and just reminding myself of that. And then starting the residency, I don't really have any experience in research. So that is I think will be my struggle, but just embracing it and knowing that, it's a first time and it's going to get better the more you do it. But juggling the whole, building a business and then actually being fully booked, seeing patients, and then, keeping up with your education, and then being a mom. So, and I need like 9 hours of sleep a night. So it's, my day is full. Yeah, but it's fun.
So, one of the things that I think is never often spoken about, so like vet rehabbers will see other vet rehab therapists and think like, wow, like they've just got it all together. Like they're just doing all this amazing stuff. And, one thing that I've really noticed in chatting to them, because obviously I chat to a lot of them, is that confidence is something that a lot of us lack. Have you ever had a time where you've just not been confident in your ability, despite actually having all the study, and you actually should be? Is that something that you struggled with?
Oh yeah. And I think that's normal. That's human nature, and some people are more confident off the bat than others. But for me, it helps to have a really good team and to have, a good mentor. For me, I'm so lucky to have Sherman and Deb, at just a phone call away. And they've been huge with helping me with cases. But having a good mentor, having the listserv, the rehab listserv, has been wonderful. I signed up for that when I finished CRI back in like 2014. And I love reading about everybody's cases, and especially when someone who's way more experienced, comments on it. I learn a lot. I've got a list going in my iPhone with little like tidbits that I take from the listserv. So that's been great. And then having a good team, having a really supportive, competent team of people with you. Julia, my tech, is with me every day of the week, and she's incredible. Clients have learned now to, they know to expect her and or me, and there's just so much more of a trust having that consistency. And then in rehab, having the same 4 people, having Kadara, Dana, Dawn, Chelsea, having them there every day. Clients know who they're going to see. And there's just a more trust there. Everything just comes a little bit easier when things like that are established.
Yeah, I must say, I think it's definitely better having people around you. So just a little bit of support. And I think that's where those one-man bands, that's one of the things they really struggle with,
Yeah.
But luckily we've got amazing online communities. So we've actually got, I don't know if you remember, of our vet rehabbers Facebook groups.
Yeah, I joined all of them.
Did you? Yeah.
Facebook. I forgot to mention that. All of those groups.
Facebook groups. So you're actually never alone. You're never alone.
No,
and obviously, all of you vet rehabbers, if you guys ever need any support or help, or just need someone to talk to, you can always reach out to me. So you guys know where to get hold of me. You can email me at meg@onlinepetshealth.com. Kristal, thank you so much. It's been so amazing chatting to you. And I'm so excited to watch your guys' progress and to see how things develop there. And looking forward to seeing the VRSM clinic when you guys have finalized everything. So exciting. Lots of great things happening for you.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers, Kristal.
Bye.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about veterinary rehabilitation. For more information about continuing education for vet rehab therapists that you can do online, you can go to onlinepethealth.com. I'd like to thank you for listening to this podcast and, of course, thank our sponsors, Pulse Vet. We thank them for their commitment to their mission to improve the quality of life of the animals that we all love by developing, validating, and providing advanced shockwave therapy at the highest level of support and service. Remember, you can reach them at pulsevet.com or info@pulsevet.com. See you all next week.